Hi everyone, and welcome to week 5 of our video presentations. So this week we did chapters 13 and 14, so I'm just going to share my connections with you all. I'd like to start out by saying that I really found these two chapters really interesting. I was able to connect with them on a lot of levels, and I really enjoyed reading these chapters. So starting with chapter 13, the first connection that I made involved this statement from the book that says, an immediate effect is one that occurs during your exposure to a media message, and the evidence of that effect is observable during the exposure or immediately after it. And this is from page 280. So how I connected with this was by scary movies. I cannot, will not, and refuse to watch scary movies because I really don't enjoy getting scared. I don't enjoy having things jump out at me. So this is something that's definitely an immediate effect. I don't get scared by talking about them or thinking about them. It is just literally in the moment watching them, watching a commercial, whatever it be, that I get the immediate effect from it. So then my next connection was pretty much hand in hand with the last one, and it involved this statement that says, long-term effects show up only after many exposures. No single exposure or no single message is responsible for the effect. Instead, it is a pattern or repeated exposures that sets up the conditions for a long-term effect. And this is from page 280 to 281. So how I related to this one was during my middle school and high school years, I went through a couple of phases where I decided that it would be a good idea to cut my hair like chin length short. And I didn't do this like every time I cut it that short, it wasn't like one right after the other. I kind of switched it up in between, and then I was like, okay, well, let's give the short hair another chance. So I had multiple exposures to having my hair this short, and sometimes I liked it, sometimes I didn't, but after doing it for a while and a good couple of times, I decided that I should never, ever cut my hair that short again. So that's kind of a good example of a long-term effect. So then my question for you all is, what is one example of an immediate effect and a long-term effect for you? So I'm kind of curious to see what some of your examples are in the immediate and the long-term effects. So moving along to chapter 14. When I first began reading this chapter, it was kind of like an attention grabber with that story on the front page. And so that story is talking about two boys who watched a movie called The Deer Hunter, in which it involves them playing Russian roulette. And so these kids ended up finding a revolver in their parents' bedroom or whatever, and they decided to play Russian roulette. And one of them ended up dying because they decided to play this. So while I was reading this, this story and this first part of the chapter, it talked about manifested effects. And I kind of wasn't sure what that meant. And it was kind of unclear still from the book. So I went to the back of the book to get a more specific definition. And it gave me this definition that I have on the screen here for you, in which it says that manifested effects are media-influenced effects that can be observed and easily attributed to media influence. So after I read this story and I read the definition, I automatically thought of a time when my cousin and I, when we were younger, we were obsessed with the movie Grease. And it's a musical for all of those of you who may not know. So we were obsessed with this movie, and we watched it probably once a day. We knew all the songs, yada yada. For some odd reason, one day we thought it would be a great idea to pierce my sister's ear, like the main character gets her ear pierced by one of her friends. So we thought it would be a great idea to do this to my sister. So, we got the ice cube and we started numbing her ear. We found a guitar string on my bedroom floor. Probably wasn't a great idea to use that. So we were, numbing it, and we had the guitar string on her ear, and my dad walks in at the perfect moment and, kind of gives us like a, "What are you doing?" Stops us, and, needless to say, we get the movie taken away for quite a while. So I thought it was kind of, relating it to my own personal life and reading this story, it's kind of interesting to see how media can influence us, especially when we're younger. So then moving on to my last connection, it involves this statement that says, "A state is a temporary drive or emotional reaction that occurs in response to some stimuli. Oftentimes, something will happen in our lives that will cause us to feel angry or frustrated. This state can interact with media content and lead to certain effects." And this is from page 306. So how I related with this was when I've noticed from time to time, like when I'm already like kind of in a bum mood or I'm sad or, something along those lines, and I watch a movie or a show or something that is kind of sad or, something along those lines, I'm more likely to get sad when those sad parts come on than I would be if I was already sad. I like to think of myself as not entirely of a sappy person when it comes to movies. But I've definitely noticed that I'm definitely a lot more emotional towards movies if I'm already emotional. So that was kind of interesting to reflect on and see. So that is all that I have for you guys for this week. I appreciate you listening, and I will see you guys next week.